stretch, but we just did that all. Called to order the meeting of the Finance Committee for Tuesday, October the 2nd. And are there, looking to the agenda, are there any additions, changes to the agenda? Seeing none, move the agenda be approved as presented. Those in favor, opposed, motion is carried unanimously. Look into the minutes of July 3rd Finance Committee meeting. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll move they be adopted as presented. Those in favor, opposed, motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to new business item D1, the 2018 financial report year to date as at July 31st. Mr. Irwin.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of the Finance Committee. I'm here to provide an update on year-to-date results as of July 31st. You've had quite a full evening so far, so I'll be brief as usual. And as not too much has changed since Catherine was here and spoke to you in early July. Overall, the majority of year-to-date variances are due to timing as normal, and many projected will align with budget throughout the rest of the year. There are a couple items, though, that we'd like to bring to your attention. ATCO franchise fees have been impacted by two natural gas rate changes earlier in the year, out of all of our control. This has resulted in decreased overall delivery rates for all customers within the community, but in turn reduces our franchise fees. ATCO gave us a projection, and they're saying approximately $138,000 by the end of the year, and we are trending about half of that right now, so that's probably true. Both planning and business registry revenues, though, are up year to date. Since the report, planning is around $370,000 ahead of budget, and business registry is around $70,000, and that would probably flow through to reserve at the end of the year right now. So economic development is good. Other than that, there's nothing too much major in the report. Hopefully the snow doesn't keep on going, or we'll be talking about snow removal, but we were a little bit over at the end of April, but hopefully we'll make up for it after this. Year-to-date payroll savings right now is about $450,000 versus our annual budgeted slippage right now of about $270,000. So we're on track. We'll keep monitoring it. And that's about it. Your agenda package contains departmental specific summaries, and the operating results at the end of July do not suggest any action required by the Finance Committee. And in conclusion, we ask that the Finance Committee accept the year-to-date financial report as of July 31st for your information.
Thanks very much. So 70,000 over projected revenue in the business registry. That's a lot of businesses, isn't it?
I've done the math, but yeah, I didn't do the math backwards, but I don't know.
No, I mean, a lot of small businesses are a couple hundred or something, and bigger businesses. Anyways, that strikes me as a lot of businesses that are newly registered, so I think that's a positive sign. Ms. DeSoto?
Yes, and I recall reporting on this last time, although I don't recall the numbers off the top of my head. Partly it was due to the fact that it was a 2-year budget, so we kept the business registries fees consistent over the couple of years.
Yeah.
That's true.
So part of that increase occurred last year as well.
Right.
That's right. I don't have last year's number with me, sorry. So.
Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Mr. Irwin, for your brief presentation. I noted as well that the Fortis franchise fees went down.
Yeah, they're down slightly. They not as much as ATCO, though. It was only about $20,000. It flows directly into the reserve, into general capital reserve. So yes, it's slightly down, not as much.
So is that across the board energy reduction, or how does the Fortis fee end up being reduced?
I have to be honest, I don't know the answer to Fortis, whether it's, I don't believe it would have to do with the rate.
That's
I
electrical.
honestly don't know that.
Fortis is electric?
Fortis is electric,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
yes. Sorry,
And
yeah.
ATCO is natural gas?
Natural gas.
Okay. Yeah, that just seemed odd that both the energy components went down last year.
It's based on the consumption of things.
Right, so
Cold winter versus
whatever
warm, might
causes,
have a
yeah,
difference,
whatever causes that. ATCO's rates, though, went down,
Yes.
but
There was
Fortis
two
is,
adjustments.
but Fortis is more rate based on consumption.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Looking at the roll-up for the Community Social Development Department. It's good to see a 298,000% increase. Wish you could see that in other line items. So
Because
that's,
because the province's year is different than ours, so we receive grant money near the end of the year, that's for the next quarter. So we have to put it into reserve and bring it back in from reserve the next year, so. It's just it's rolling the funds over from
Yeah.
year to year, so that
So-
happens every year, and it'll happen again this year too, so.
so I guess to
It's
that-
not extra money.
No, I get that. But when we do the budget, wouldn't we know that's going to happen and anticipate that within the projected?
So then I would have to reduce the revenue line just above there, because the revenue actually comes in the year that it comes in, and then it flows to the reserve and then comes back out again, so it wouldn't make a difference.
Okay, too complicated for me.
It wouldn't make a difference, so.
No, I know it wouldn't make a difference. Still, it's fungible, isn't it? I beg your pardon?
It will be spent, yes.
I don't have any other questions on the roll-ups. Anybody else? Looking at well, that's D2, that's the next item. So, moving on to D2 then, did you want to report or?
I don't really have a report or anything. I just will say, as usual, we'll be happy to answer any questions that we can. It'll be a little bit of a team effort. One important thing, though, to remember, the project budget spent to date, the numbers on here,
Right.
are what was posted in accounts payable, physical invoices, as of July 31st. So a project might say here, complete, but you'll say, oh, there's no dollars have been spent. It's only timing. It's because the invoices may not have come in. Some of the comments the managers wrote were a few weeks later, a month later. So concentrate on the comments. It would be my first bit of advice.
Right, and just to that point, and it's just underlining this as a sort of a thing, Project 7018, the Secondary Suite Incentive Program, still no applications. It's like, so we put this money out there for homeowners to take advantage of, $50,000 to do some secondary suite development, and nobody's taken us up on it. Did you have something to add to that?
I did, yes. The expectation when we put that budget out there was that we would have the land use bylaw amended by now to allow suites in all neighborhoods. So that was why we didn't have it in 2017, added it back in 2018. So partly that could
Sure.
influence the
Absolutely.
uptake.
If the opportunity was greater,
Right.
we would expect, but people can build secondary suites legally already in town.
Yes, yes, they can.
Yeah, so,
It is, it is a sizable commitment from a household budget perspective to build a garage suite or a secondary suite, so that's also reflected.
and just a question on, in utilities 7044, the upgrades to meet the TAN approvals, which, there hasn't been
Page
very,
29.
pardon me?
On just
29,
page
right.
29 to follow along.
So there hasn't been very much spent yet, but it notes that, of course, trialing dosing amounts to determine if additional work is required. So does that imply additional work over and above the budgeted 526,000 or
7044.
7044?
7044. In utilities, page 21.
Short answer is no.
No. Additional funds should not be required
Okay.
above what is there.
Okay, just curious what additional work they think might be required then. And that's just a question of curiosity. You can answer that. another day?
Short answer is no. We don't anticipate additional costs this time.
Okay. Any other questions for item D2, the capital project progress report? Seeing none. Moving on to D3, the 2019-2020. Oh. Ms. DeSoto?
Yes, sorry, there were motions for the D1, recommendation the Finance Committee accept the year-to-date financial report
Right you are.
as information. And so you could accept the first two as information if you'd like.
Okay, I'll so move that Finance Committee accept the year-to-date financial report as at July 31st, 2018, and the capital project progress report July 31st for information. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Van Kyn-Pima.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of the Finance Committee. I'm sadly here at my last Finance Committee. So first of all, I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with each and every one of you, and I'm going to miss you. On to my report. Master fee schedule. So historically, we've had the Finance Committee consider any changes to the master fee schedule as part of the budget process. As you know, the budget process has a lot of bits and pieces and lots of things to consider, and I felt that sometimes the master fee schedule wasn't necessarily always given the attention that it should. So this year I had recommended as part of our budget and business guidelines to pull that out and have council consider it before the budget process. So this is that opportunity to look at the master fee schedule. There are lots of departments where no changes were made. There was departments where some were made. If there were changes made, I tried to provide you with an explanation off to the side. Dr. Cottle did point out, as we were trying to get the report together quickly, that there were some corrections in the areas for the recreation department. So just to let you know, and we'll make that adjustment on the schedule, but I just wanted to bring to your attention items number 1509 through 1511, which is the rental of the Lady Mac Hall for the purposes of a wedding. Shouldn't read per hour, it should be a flat rate. As well, if somebody would like to rent the community hall in the rec center for weddings, again, that should be a flat rate and not per hour. The other thing is, if someone is going to be renting the Elk Run Boulevard ball diamonds, as well as the Lions Park ball diamonds and the sports field at Millennium, those all have a per day, it should be a per hour rate.
Okay.
And I'll just double check that, and that's it. So that concludes my presentation. Unless anyone has any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have one or two. In the attachment 1, which was the version with explanations,
Yes.
on the very first page under fire response, so section 2, the deputy fire chief per hour rate didn't change, but in the explanations it echoes what was said in the line above, previous fee and excessive cost.
Yes.
But there was no change in fee,
Yes.
correct?
That is correct. There was in one draft, but by the time we got to the final draft,
That's right.
We had decided that no change should be made, and it was my error to not remove the comment. My apologies. Better a comment when one's not needed than the other way around, don't you
Right,
think?
you are. Did somebody over there have a comment, question?
I just wanted to, I appreciate that Ms. Van Kyn-Pima gave me credit for catching those, but it was because of a question from Councillor Hillstad, so he should get credit for the corrections, not me.
Bully for you. Councillor Hillstead, do you have a question?
That's just another correction. It says climbing gum rental. I think it's supposed to say
We'll
climbing
fix that.
gym. I like the climbing gum. Though.
We'll
I'm
fix
fine
that
with
too.
Climbing gum?
Yeah.
Climbers, you chew gum and they put it back and somebody else. There's a couple other things I'd circled. In the section 10 on film, there's fees for film permits and location fees. And I know we've looked at this before. Oh, no, is this new? This is new, isn't it? Right. So
Yes, it is.
would a production that comes to Canmore be expected to pay for both the film permit and location fee?
It depends on the film. So sometimes they just want, like, for example, maybe they want to use Quarry Lake, right? There's been movies made there in the past, but they don't actually need a permit. They're not closing roads. They're not using other town infrastructure. So it depends on if it's just about a location or if there's a formal permitting process that involves other town infrastructure or town supports and resources. So it completely depends on the film, but it's separated out because we get basically three kinds of film permits. We don't get that many, but when we get them, it can just be the location, it can be a road closure, like we've had a film that was done here in the alley, or something that might involve both. So it's meant to capture all of that. And historically, the language we had around film permits was something like, we'll charge between $100 and $500 at the discretion of the facility rental person. And so they had they had no criteria, it was completely random and very difficult for them to administer. So based on what they see in their experience, this is a set of criteria that's, has something, parameters around it, so it's not just based on a whim.
Perfect. Good answer. Thank you. Councillor Sanford?
Your Worship. So further to that, a crew of 1 to 6 would need a film permit for $100, but then the location fee is $0 for crew of 1 to 6?
That's right. So if it's a small crew and they're just going to set up, for a few hours at Quarry Lake, they have no fee, because basically that's almost no impact.
So the
right?
permit is covering their
Exactly.
usage or their filming
Exactly.
opportunity.
And because it's a small crew, it's often very small impact. The big issues we get around film permits are when it's quite significant, a Hollywood production, right, they want to close down access to something for days or months, those kinds of things.
And they would be setting up lighting and all kinds
Exactly.
of
Sometimes building structures.
structures.
Yeah.
Okay. So that $100 permit fee essentially covers a small crew.
Yeah, usually that's
doing
like
what
the
they're doing.
making maybe of a commercial, which is
Yeah.
sometimes half a day, maybe a full day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice to see in the fee structure for sure. That whole section on film. Thank you.
Mhm.
In section 19, point 20 and point 21, the parks, just for a general sort of question, discussion, and I've raised this on several occasions in a number of different discussions. I still feel that $500 for like a wedding at Quarry Lake Park is pretty. 19.20.
Page 18, or sorry, 49 of the package.
So we haven't changed it. It's $500 for a block of time and $250 for the other. Or sorry, it's $500 for non-resident, $250 for resident in all of the parks. But given the demand, particularly for Quarry Lake Park, was there a discussion to increase that?
It was recently increased. The last time the master fee schedule was brought to council, it was increased, and that increase was based on research of other outdoor venues. I think what's significant to note here is that we don't say yes to we put a cap on the number of weddings that can happen on any given day and any given weekend. And in particular, on weekends that we know are busy in town, we also put sometimes additional caps on.
Okay.
So it's not, there are limits, that is the fee, but we don't allow wedding after wedding after wedding after wedding all day long, especially, again, if we know it's hot and busy. So there are some restrictions. It's not complete free access. But those fees are in line with like municipalities and like outdoor venues.
And that obviously would accommodate all of the actual expenses that the town would incur to go in and clean up after a service or ceremony?
We don't do any setup or
Not
cleanup.
setup, but, so between ceremonies, does anybody go in and clean up the debris
No,
from the
the
last
part of
one?
the agreement of the rental is that the couple or the whoever is doing the rental is completely responsible for all setup and all takedown. We will sometimes go in to make sure that that's been done. And if we do have to do cleanup, then that would be an additional charge because it's not part of the rental.
And is that in the agreement that's signed?
Yes.
So any costs incurred would be, okay, thanks. Counselor Comfort?
Just to that, do people pay a deposit on those when they execute the rental contract?
I beg your pardon.
I'm not entirely sure. I need to get back to you on that. I'm fairly certain that we have implemented a deposit, you'd have to pay for all of it beforehand, right? You can't pay for it after the entire, but I need to double check
Yeah,
on
it
the
just seems once the
deposit.
party's over, it's hard to
Right,
chase people down.
sometimes harder to get the money. I will double check and get back to you on that.
Thanks.
Counselor Sanford?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few lines down from there on 19.25. There's a tennis court drop-in fee per hour that's $12 an hour. Do we have a drop-in fee?
Mike? We have a system that we've worked with the Tennis Association to set up. And so there are certain times where you can, and days where you can reserve a court. And if you want to have the court reserved so that you can come and play, then you can pay a fee to be able to do that. There are other times that are not bookable, they're just open to whomever comes, but that's been set up in conjunction with the Tennis Association to be able to have some open access and some reserved times. So if you want a reserved time, if you want to be able to come and play for an hour, then there would be options for paying to ensure that a court is available for you. And that's all been done online and in conjunction with the Tennis Association. And I believe there's a report coming to council soon from Recreation and Public Works about that partnership with the Tennis Association.
Okay, so the drop-in fee is if you want exclusive use of the court, you pay $12 an hour.
If you want to have it booked for
Right.
you, yes. But
Okay.
it's that you can't always do that when you want. There are only certain times where that's available.
Okay, because there's two fees there, one for reserved and one for drop-in, so hopefully that's not confusing to people, that the courts are free if you drop in, right?
Courts are free if it's not a bookable time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Just leave your light on over there. And in the, so it's page 23 of 24, it's in the development permits section. Similar comment, and I'm not going to incur the wrath of the downtown business community this evening, but I still feel the fees we charge for the license of occupation for an in-street patio is abysmally low. Page 23 of 24, it's
Or 54 of 80 in your package?
54, yeah, 80 in the package. So $1,000 a year, $1,050. It's probably the best bargain in the town of Canmore. So, as I say, remembering the brouhaha that occurred after I was last successful in suggesting an increase to that fee, and people were upset. And people said, we won't lease a stall, and we won't put in a patio because that's too much money. We had a lot of patios. Mr. Fark, did you want to say something?
Not terribly, but I will if you would like me to.
You got the light on, your call.
So the fees were as they were previously set by council and agreed to by council, that $1,000, and it is comparable to the cost of the similar program in Banff.
Yeah, I don't recall, but I think Banff just raised their fees. It doesn't matter, I'm not going to go there tonight. Pardon me? Well, and they have quite a different system. They go per seat, I think, rather than a flat fee. Any case, a great bargain. Maybe,
If only there were a group of people who had the power to choose to change these things.
would that be like the Jedi Council? Yeah, well, if only. Okay, back to the review. Are there any other questions from members of council? That's all the questions that I had. So, no other questions, comments, discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so then, sitting now as the Jedi Council. So I'll move that, what's the issue over there? I am. And I'm going to put forward an amending motion. That's why I had to think about it. So move that Finance Committee approve the 2019 to 2020 master fee schedule as presented. And I'll move to amend that motion by increasing the where am I? What page is that on? There we are. Increasing the license of occupation fee for in-street patio by 20% each year over the next 3 years. So that'd be roughly $200 increase per year. Discussion of the amending motion? Yep, totally. Councillor McCallum?
I would love to understand, Your Worship, where you got that calculation from.
What, there was no calculation involved.
It was pluck.
Yep.
Okay. I could be amenable to that, but I'd like to do some research. I'd like to understand other communities as to how they, so you said that Banff charges a per seat. I know that Nelson charges a per parking stall plus an application fee. And so based on the size of the patio depends on actually how much you're paying and how much parking that's being taken. So I don't think I could support that motion as is just because it's arbitrary. The number is arbitrary, and maybe that is the right number, but I don't know until we do some research.
So just to your point, that the initial number was arbitrary too.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about it each year or every time this has come to council for discussion, that it arbitrarily a very low amount of money for a business to have access to that much Main Street property for the entire summer. And I don't know what it works out to in Banff or other communities. I do know that in Canmore that's a very, very, very reasonable fee to charge for that space for the summer months. And certainly I didn't come into the meeting with an amendment in mind, but I think 20% per year for the next 3 years is reasonable. It's only $200 a year, and if that's the wrong number, then council can double it or triple it if that's a better number.
Pluck.
But, yep. Councillor Comfort?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor McCallum. It's something a little bit arbitrary. the number, but in principle, I don't disagree with the idea. And I think one of Councillor McCallum's favorite words, behooves us to perhaps consult with that community so they don't feel that they've been blindsided by an extra charge and that they had some feedback. We could do research to find out what other communities charge.
Yeah, I'd rather, frankly, that council voted the amendment down than to direct some sort of research and create more work.
Well,
for this.
knowing what square foot, retail square foot space is worth, I agree, it's a great bargain, but perhaps it's a bargain that those businesses deserve, because it is so high, but maybe not, and I don't really have the information to make an informed decision, so.
Okay. Fine. Any other discussion? Well, you didn't put an amendment to the amendment forward, so. No, I'm not going to speak to it, but I wouldn't support an amendment that just simply makes more work for admin. I think it's a much simpler piece of work than council is imagining. Yes?
I wanted to provide information, if I may.
You may,
The master fee schedule can be adopted and amended at any time.
at any time.
So just for that
Sure,
piece
but
of
it-
information.
Great, thank you for that. But it's before us now, and we won't think of it again for another year. And anyways, there's an amendment on the floor. Councillor McCallum, you speaking to that
Well,
amendment?
and I want to state that, like, in principle, I agree with you. I think it is a good bargain, but how much of a bargain and how big of a bargain? And I would state that we could arbitrarily make this change and that the extra work is going to come back with the blowback from Main Street businesses because they haven't been consulted. And it's actually not about consulting, it's actually about being able to inform them as to how we came to that number and why we came to that number and what the comparators are. So, some of the patios are much bigger than the other patios, and they're all being charged the same price. And so I understand your unwillingness to make extra work, and I completely respect that, Your Worship, but I think if we're going to make a change like this, it could be an even more drastic change financially, and that we should have some research behind it. So do I get to make an amending motion? Or no, I guess not. We get to vote
You
this
can
down.
amend the
and-
amendment, but
We get to vote this down, and then I get to come up with a follow-up? Is that how it
not if
rolls?
it's similar. It's better to move an amendment to the amending motion, which
My head hurts
support.
too much today.
So the amending motion is to increase the fee, whatever it was called, by 20% a year for the next 3 years. So if you want to propose an amendment to that. Yes?
Didn't you just speak to that?
Well, I just
Oh,
want
more.
what he
You
just
want to
said.
talk more like I was? Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's about fairness. So as Councillor McCallum has just pointed out, that they're different sizes and different locations and so forth. I hate the arbitrariness of it, but I agree with you that they could stand to be raised. But I think we need to do it, maybe the people who need to do the work are the TCK and the BRZ and all of that stuff, right? They need to do the work and bring it forward. Otherwise, we'll just arbitrarily pick an amount.
Okay. I'll call the question on the amending motion. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion's defeated with myself supporting. Back to the main motion then, that the Finance Committee approve the 2019 to 2020 master fee schedule as presented. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Moving on then to item D4.
So no decision has to be made about this item on your agenda, but I did want to touch base just to reconfirm, because last time you saw the dates for the upcoming budget sessions in November was back in July. And since then, we've had some emails from some councillors who said they couldn't make some of the dates, and I thought I would take this opportunity, as we're now at the beginning of October, 1 month away from D-Day, so to speak, or B-Day, Budget Day. I thought I would just double check and see which dates people may not be available for, if the dates that we have down there still work for them. So the dates that I'm speaking to are in the committee section. November 1st is our target to get the budget documents out to the Finance Committee to begin your exciting reading in preparation for the rest of the meetings. And then with the meetings basically being Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning from 9 till noon, right through to the end of the month. So I was wondering if anyone had some dates that were of conflict, and then perhaps we could discuss alternatives, or...
I don't see Christmas Day there, so I'm okay.
That would be today.
We actually had a hold for a special meeting of council on the calendar for December 25th.
Oh, dear.
Which I noticed and suggested to Ms. Cardinal she remove, which she did. Councilor McCallum, did you have?
The only date that I have a conflict with is the 20th of November. And I will be out of province on a conference.
Okay. Anybody else?
And of course, as is usual, we'll soldier on even if we're short one or two
Yeah.
members of council. So you didn't need a motion?
No, I didn't need a
Approve
motion. I
that.
just wanted to sort of take the pulse and see, are you okay if we carry on the 20th?
Yeah, actually,
or-
so good question. She wasn't asking, you guys are sitting there nodding, right? Yeah, just let her go. Anyways. Are we going to still broadcast?
Yes.
Okay, so then I can watch it after the
Yes.
fact then? Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're going to
thank
do the
you.
same, the plan anyway, is that we're going to do the same thing we did before, where we have the Finance Committee come down onto the floor with the tables in the U shape, but bring your microphones down and set the video so that the Finance Committee meeting is still broadcast, but it's more of a working session than it is a formal session like tonight
Perfect.
is.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. Last chance. Any other changes you'd like made?
And all of these dates will be in our calendars
Yes,
already, or
they should already be there.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
So is this actually the last time you're going to stand in front of us?
No, I'll be back probably October 16th supporting Ms. Dalrymple when she brings a report forward for your
Okay.
consideration.
Well, I'll just take this brief opportunity to say how hard it's going to be without you.
Thank you.
You've done a significant amount of work to help us, help council and the rest of administration put the town of Canmore on a really solid financial footing. You've guided us through major transition in how we budget. You've helped us develop policies that are that assure us and the residents that our financial planning is comprehensive and complete. It's been a real pleasure working with you, and I did try to talk Mayor Genung of Cochrane into changing that decision, but he wouldn't. So we're going to
Thank
miss
you.
you.
Well, thank you very much. And I just also want to point out that it really is a team effort. For a lot of the things that you've mentioned, it's a whole bunch of people behind me, and I'm the face. So, thank you.
Okay. That. With that, I'll move the Finance Committee be adjourned. Those in favor, we're adjourned.